Did you know that some miracles are actually warnings? We always pray for a sign from above, but we never stop to think about what might happen if we actually get one. What if the holy faces we worship suddenly woke up? And what if they weren't happy with what they saw? The monastery of St. Jonah had stood for 5 centuries, hidden deep within the endless pine forests of the taiga. It was a place where silence was not just a rule. It was a heavy, suffocating blanket that covered everything. The air always smelled of ancient beeswax, cold stone, and incense that had settled into the wood over hundreds of years. For Father Sergei, it was home, sanctuary, and grave. He was the youngest there, though at 40, his beard was already streaked with grey, prematurely aged by the isolation and the relentless, bitter winters. That night was no different from 1,000 others. The wind howled outside, a lonely, desperate sound that rattled the iron frames of the high, narrow windows. Inside the main cathedral, it was fiercely cold. The heating systems had failed weeks ago, and the few remaining monks were too old or too frail to fix them. Sergei was alone for the midnight vigil. It was his duty to ensure the eternal lamps, the lampads, shimmered before the iconostasis. The cathedral was vast, a cavern of shadows where golden halos of saints floated in the darkness, illuminated only by the flickering candlelight. They watched him. He always felt they watched him. But one icon in particular drew his gaze every night. It was an ancient Theotokos, the Mother of God, positioned to the right of the royal doors. It was said to be older than the monastery itself, brought here by the first hermit who fled the world. The paint was cracked, darkened by centuries of smoke, but her eyes had always been piercingly bright, painted with a strange, almost liquid depth by some long-forgotten master. Sergei finished trimming the wick of the lamp in front of St. Nicholas and moved toward her. That's when he heard it. Drip. It was quiet, but in the utter dead silence of the cathedral, it sounded like a hammer hitting stone. He froze, his hand hovering over a candle. He listened. The old timber of the church often groaned under the weight of the snow on the roof. But this was different. It was wet, rhythmic, drip. He turned slowly, holding his single candle high. The feeble light pushed back the darkness only a few feet. He looked up at the vaulted ceiling, expecting to see melting snow leaking through the ancient stones. But the ceiling was dry, lost in blackness. Drip. It came from in front of him. From the iconostasis. Sergei lowered his gaze to the Theotokos. At first, his mind refused to accept what his eyes were seeing. He thought it was a trick of the flickering light, a shadow cast by the swaying lampad above. He stepped closer, his felt boots silent on the stone floor. A single dark line ran from the corner of her right eye down her cheek, pooling at the bottom of the gilded frame. It looked black in the candlelight. He reached out, his trembling finger hovering just millimeters from the wood. He didn't dare touch it. It was blasphemy to even think it, but it looked fresh, wet. He leaned in closer, squinting. The liquid was thick, viscous. As he watched, another droplet formed in the corner of her painted eye. It hung there for a terrifying second, heavy and swollen, before gravity pulled it down. It left a crimson trail that glistened like a fresh wound. It wasn't oil. Sometimes icons wept myrrh, a fragrant, oily substance that was considered a great blessing. Pilgrims would travel thousands of miles to see it, but this This didn't smell of roses or holiness. It smelled metallic, copper, salt. It smelled like blood. Sergei stumbled back, nearly dropping his candle. The flames sputtered wildly, casting frantic, dancing shadows that made the saints on the walls seem to writhe in agony. He gasped, a sharp intake of freezing air that burned his lungs. "Lord, have mercy," he whispered, but the prayer felt empty, swallowed instantly by the immense, indifferent darkness of the church. He should have run to wake the abbot. He should have rung the bells, but he couldn't move. A horrific fascination rooted him to the spot. The icon was weeping blood. Not just a symbolic trickle, but a steady, slow stream now, leaking from both eyes. The expression on the Virgin's face, which had always seemed to him one of serene sorrow, now looked different. In the unstable light, it looked like pure, undistilled agony. Her painted lips seemed drawn tighter, her brows slightly more furrowed. Was he going mad? The solitude did that to some monks. They saw demons in the shadows, heard angels in the wind. But this was real. He could see the red stain soaking into the ancient, cracked wood of the frame. He needed to be sure. Steeling himself, murmuring the Jesus prayer under his breath repetitively, desperately, he stepped forward again. He reached out and pressed his index finger into the pool of liquid at the base of the frame. It was warm. That was the most terrifying thing of all. In this freezing church, where his own breath plumed in white clouds before him, the blood was warm, like it had just come from a living body. He stared at the red smear on his fingertip. The metallic iron smell filled his nostrils now, overpowering the incense. It was the smell of violence, of earthly suffering, here in the holiest of places. Then another sound. Not a drip this time, a soft, strangled intake of breath. It came from the icon. Sergei fell to his knees. The candle rolled away, extinguishing itself on the cold floor. He was left in near total darkness, save for the red glow of the vigil lamps. He scrambled backward on his hands and knees, scraping his skin on the rough stones. He wasn't alone in the cathedral anymore. Something immense, something ancient and terribly awake, was in that piece of wood. He sat in the dark, panting, his eyes fixed on the icon. The red lamps made the blood look black again. He realized with dawning horror that this wasn't a blessing. A weeping icon usually meant a warning of catastrophe, war, plague, the end of days. But this felt personal. It felt like an accusation. As minutes turned into an hour, he just watched. The flow didn't stop. It began to drip off the bottom of the frame, hitting the floor with that same maddening, rhythmic sound. Drip, drip, drip. It was a torture. He thought about the sins of the world, the sins of his monastery, his own secret sins. Was this for him? He remembered the old legends the abbot had told him, that icons are windows to heaven. But windows work both ways. If we can look through them to see the divine, then the divine can look back at us. And what if they are horrified by what they see? He felt an overwhelming urge to clean it, to hide it before anyone else saw. It felt like a dirty secret, a divine shame. He stood up on shaky legs, found a clean cloth used for polishing the silver candle stands. He approached the icon again. "Forgive me," he whispered. "Forgive me, Mother." He wiped the cheek. The cloth came away heavy and sodden with bright red. For a moment, the painted face was clean again, though stained. But immediately, fresh blood welled up in the eyes. Faster this time, more urgent. It was as if he had angered it. The church suddenly felt colder, if that was possible. The shadows seemed to press in closer to the iconostasis, as if the other saints were gathering around to witness the miracle or the curse. Sergei dropped the bloody cloth. He backed away slowly until his back hit the opposite wall of the church. He would wait here until dawn. He would wait until the others came. He couldn't be alone with this anymore. But as he waited, the silence broke again. It wasn't just dripping now. It was a low, soft sound, like a mother weeping over a dead child. It echoed faintly from the wooden boards, a sound of irredeemable sadness that seeped into his bones. He understood then. It wasn't just a warning. It was pure grief. The icon wasn't just awake. It was heartbroken. And nothing is more terrifying than the heartbreak of God. He closed his eyes, but he could still see the burning red tears in the darkness. He knew that when the sun rose, the world would never be the same again.